from Brewing. Today we're doing the Double American Pale Ale. This is basically a version 2 recipe, and then I went and changed the recipe again, made it 2.1, because we're doing all late hops. And I'm using brewtubetech today for my calculations, because Beersmith was playing up. Yeah, it was a really weird issue, because I've got extract and steeping grains, but it just couldn't handle that and did something really funny with the IBUs and basically just chucked the IBUs off the chart. So don't know what that was about, but we'll just use something that's familiar and working. So basically we've got a 23 litre batch, 5.5 kilos of liquid malt extract, which we've got sitting in there, and 2 kilos of Crystal 60, which we should have in our trusty bag here somewhere. Good to go through the ingredients, make sure I've got it all. There's our Safal US05, 10 grams, should be enough to kickstart this guy. There it is. So there's our 2 kg of Crystal. Cool, and the hop schedule. Basically, because we're doing all late hops, I've got 3 additions. So we're going to have a 15 minute and a 10 minute and a 5 minute. Basically the 15 minute is going to be Simcoe and Amarillo. So we've got 33 grams of Simcoe, 66 of Amarillo, and the 10 minute is going to be the same again, and the 5 minute is going to be the same again. So I've got 100 grams of Simcoe, 200 of Amarillo, so we get 3 times 33 out of that and 3 times 66 out of that. So keep that out of the sun. So that's what we're doing. Basically that's going to give us IBUs of about 83. I was hoping for slightly higher, but the original gravity is going to be 88 apparently, so probably don't need too much more than that. Scales, start with Amarillo. So we want 3 times 66 on this one, which is always hard to do. Basically, I'm not too worried about touching the hops because we're boiling them all, and basically I'm going for an all late hopped type beer anyway, because what happened was it's a lot of hops. What happened was when I ordered these hops, they actually came pre-measured out and split off from the bag. So I thought, well, since they've been handled, I won't risk dry hopping. Even though we've got the antibacterial sort of properties, behind us, it's just something I wasn't interested in risking, really. So I'm pretty particular about this sort of stuff. Well, got 3 cups full of hops, all aroma and flavour hops. But basically we're going to get a bitterness from these late hops. So there they are there. I'll put some Glad wrap on top and put them in a dark spot. This crystal malt is going to give us a bit of extra gravity, a bit more body, I suppose, sweetness. We're going to hopefully end up with a more flavoursome beer. Just pop all of that in there. It's more than I thought there'd be. chuck it on the big element just to get it going. Rightio. Sanitizing time. Spray and wipe that nice and clean into our sanitizer solution. I just use this stuff here at the moment, just a no rinse. They say sterilizer, but it's actually a sanitizer. Kills 99.9%. Basically that stuff is a powder and it just oxidizes. Pretty cool, does the job. And they reckon you have to have it contacted for about 10 minutes, which seems quite a long time, but you know, then again it's not sarsan or anything like that, so yeah, it's just a different medium, I suppose. Get that in there, and somehow have to wet the massive spoon. Yeah, one interesting thing that I've learned about sanitizers is contact time is not submersible time, or you know, under the liquid. Contact time basically means you wet it and it stays wet. So that's what we're doing here. Just having it kind of submersed for a little bit, and then we'll move it off to over here. Even though the hops are going to require just a 15, 10 and 5 minute boil, we're still going to need to do probably an hour of boiling because we've got some pale malts in here. Now pale malts, those particular malts tend to have a lot more S-methyl methionine in them than the darker darker malts. So what tends to happen there is when you're doing your brewing and you're heating things up, the S-methyl methionine turns into DMS, dimethyl sulfide, I think it was, dimethyl sulfide, and that gives you that sort of buttery character in beers. So you basically want to boil the hell out of it so that you're getting rid of all of that DMS or dimethyl sulfide, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to boil our crystal malt for a whole hour, get rid of all that character, and you know, at the end of the hour then start doing the hops. So I'm basically just using a hand sanitizer here before I go in and start playing around with the hops cloth here. So basically it's just a gauze cloth that I've managed to find and use, and what we're going to do with it is fold it into shape, so that and tie it actually, so that we can sort of create a hop bag, I suppose, for boiling. So I might do that now just while we've got some downtime. There it is there. A hop bag, all ready to roll. Right, so we're just sort of scooping some grains up here into the sieve, and just giving it a push down to push some of that fluid through. And this just boiled, so that'll give us a helping hand as well to push through a bit more of that grain. So I'll just do this for a bit and get all the sugars out of that grain. Actually went through and did a second run after I'd done all the grain, so just managed to get everything out of it, all the sugars. There it is there, so oh, hopefully this doesn't make a mess. Awesome. So it actually leaves quite a lot of crap. The old grains. Good to filter that out so we don't have too much trouble. We are good to start a boil. Alright, I'm in the garage because I forgot to grab an airlock and a rubber O-ring. Silly enough. And luckily I've got one. Alright. Well, we're finally boiling. It took quite a while to heat this guy up. I had to put the lid on to sort of keep it quite hot inside, but yeah, now it's bubbling away nicely, so it doesn't look like we're getting any sort of boil over anytime soon. But we'll keep an eye on that just in case. Just watching some CraigTube again, Saturday evening. Well, for me anyway, it's Friday for him. Right, boil's been happening for about half an hour. What we'll do now is we will get our liquid malt extract, get it out of its hot water bath. You guys have seen all this before, you know the drill. And basically we just want to get it in there. We've got the spatula so we can, you know, get everything out. The tricky thing about this is you have to be fast because it ends up sticking to the bottom if you're not careful, and well, bottom of that is a little bit slippery, so we'll have to be nice and quick there. Spatula is definitely the coolest way to do this. Well, when you've got a square sort of square container anyway. Just an ever so slight caramel smell off this, so we could be burning it slightly at the bottom, which is a bit of a pain. I honestly don't mind it that much though. Pot settling. I find it adds a little bit of character in some beers if you accidentally burn the malt. It's not the end of the world. I mean, for lighter beers you don't want it in there, you don't want it in a lager, but for say a double strength pale ale or something, you're probably only just okay. So I'll keep mixing this guy up and we'll bring it back to the boil. That one ended up getting a bit too full with the liquid malt extract, so I've chucked some into here, just so that when I go do the hops, the hop break isn't going to go nuts. Just keeps a little bit outside as well, make it a bit easier to handle. So just carry on stirring this while it's boiling up again. Looks like we're back up to the boil though, so that's all good. Well, I did the 15-minute edition and just did the 10-minute edition. Whacked it in there. Just trying to get those hops in the liquid really. They just tend to sort of sit on top of each other in there, so just trying to really get them underneath. What I might do is get some of this wort into here just to top it up, and so the hops are fully submerged. And I've got a couple minutes left before my 5-minute edition, so better get to work. Right, time for the 5-minute hop edition. Just a little weary of that boil, it's starting to splat and splutter quite a lot. So gotta be careful of this. Make sure we get it in there. Boil's done. Whew. I've soaked up a lot of water actually. Bit of a worry there. Transfer them in there. Get some cold water on the hops. Basically want to stop the hops from being too hot, so otherwise we're going to end up with too much bitterness, and that's what we're trying to get away from. Might get this tipped out. Now the way I see it is this brew was going to end up being a bit of a leave it outside to cool down type brew. So we're just improvising a little bit here to kind of make that work for us. Bring that back up here and get a lid on it just to keep that safe. So we're already at 9.5 litres, so we want 23, so just got to be aware of that. See if we can transfer these hops back across so we can keep cooling them down. That's the idea, is just to get the hops nice and cold, and while doing that, get our hop juice across. So I'll keep doing this until I've got the hops nice and cool, and I'll top it up with some cold. Well, we've got the beer in there. It is in excess of 40 degrees Celsius, so what I'm going to have to do is pop the fermenter on an ice bath, and maybe even put it outside overnight to let it cool down. So I guess there's a bit of a drawback on the late hopping and sort of getting as much out of the hops as you can, so there's an example. Rightio, so leaving it out overnight, it's cooled it down to about 21 degrees, sort of in between 20 and 22, so that's all good. Looks like a nice day this morning, so what we'll do is we'll just carefully lift that off, and we'll grab our yeast and just sprinkle it on top. Nothing fancy going on here. And I pretty much just let that settle down into the beer on its own. Just let it sort of get wet at first and then move on down. What I'll do now just before it does drop down, I'll grab a hydrometer reading. What did it say? We said the liquid was 21 degrees, so we add 0.0011. Okay. The gravity reading was actually kind of low. Wasn't what I expected. It was 1.068, so a really long specific kind of specific gravity will be 1.0691 on the end. Doesn't really matter, it's not that significant, but I find it kind of helps with the accuracy of calculating the overall alcohol content, so I'll leave that in there. Estimated original gravity I think was about 80 something, so we're kind of at least 10 points away, so that's a weird one. Estimated IBUs I think were about 80, and we were looking about 8.5%, so let's see what the potential alcohol is going to be. So 1065, 1070, we're in there somewhere, so we're looking at about between 8.5 to 9.3, so probably 9, I'm thinking, about 9%. We'll see how that goes. Sounds like it should be right. Anyway, that's it. That's our brew. So I will pop that in the garage in the fermentation fridge, and that's it.